If you're in a situation where you feel like you need to get your life back on track, or if you're looking to start on a journey of personal development and you're not sure where to start or how to start, this video is for you. Because in this video, I'm going to share a framework with you that I found very useful in the past and that I'm using again now to figure out exactly how to approach this project of essentially getting your life back together and building yourself up. This is the Saga Framework. Saga is an acronym. It stands for the 4 important elements to focus on: skills, acceptance, gratitude, and ambition. So in this video, let's go through why these 4 elements, how they all work together, and how you can use this to improve your life. If you're interested in a bit more context, check out my previous video about my Norway road trip, which explains how I arrived at this point. But let's get into the framework now. So, skills, acceptance, gratitude, and ambition. Why these 4 things? To explain that, let me start with the last one, ambition. Ambition is basically about having goals and having ambitious goals to strive for. And on the face of it, it's pretty obvious, right? If we want to make progress, if we want to improve our lives, we have to have some goal to aim for. If you don't know what direction you're headed in, if you don't even know where you want to go, it's quite unlikely that you'll arrive there. So that's the most simple way to think of this. You need to have a goal to aim for. And it needs to be an ambitious goal, which means that it needs to be a goal that is currently out of reach and that is also exciting. That's part of an ambitious goal. You can have a lame goal that you're not really that interested in, or that you feel like, well, I could easily achieve that if I put in a little bit of effort. That's hardly going to get you out of bed in the morning. That's hardly going to give you a new level of drive and motivation to make changes in your life. And that's why it's important that we're not just talking about goals, but we're talking about ambitious goals. But this is important. Just having ambitious goals that you aim for can also backfire. Because if you're simply thinking, okay, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, I want to make lots of money, I want to travel the world, I want to have an amazing physique, I want to have great relationships, and these things are all out of reach. If you simply have these out of reach dreams, if you simply think these are great things I want to have in my life, but they all feel totally out of reach, you're nowhere near having anything like that, well, that might actually do the opposite of motivate you. Because what it brings into sharp contrast is how much you lack these things in your life right now and how far away they seem. And if your goals are too ambitious and there's no clear path towards them, then instead of getting out of bed in the morning motivated to try something new, you might just think, it's pointless. I can never do this. And that's why ambition by itself really can't stand on its own. And right there, I think a lot of, goal setting, motivation type content in the self-development space can be really detrimental. It can backfire. And also a lot of inspirational stuff, looking at people with amazing physiques, looking at people flexing their amazing lives on social media. That can actually do the opposite of motivate you, because really it just reminds you of how out of reach, how far away these goals are. And this is why ambition alone doesn't work. We need the other 3 elements as well. So with that, let's go to the start of the Saga Framework. The S stands for skills. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals, not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own. That was a quote from Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher. And this is a concept I really love from Stoic philosophy, to make a very clear distinction between what are things that are outside of my control, what are things that I have direct control over, and I'm only going to worry about things that I have direct control over. And when it comes to improving your life, what is something you have direct control over? It is your skills. It is up to you to put in the practice, to do the learning, to do the repetitions, to build up the skills that will help you achieve whatever outcomes you want. I firmly believe that whatever your goal is, the best way to get there is to identify what skills you need in order to achieve them and then work on those skills. And one way to identify the skills that you need is you can think of your goal. You can ask yourself, what kind of a person would easily accomplish this goal? And what skills does this person have? So for example, if your goal is financial, you want more money, you want financial freedom, you can ask yourself, well, what kind of skills would make this goal easy? And one possible answer is, if I had great entrepreneurial skills. If I was a great entrepreneur, I knew how to build a business, how to create great products, how to sell those products to customers. If I was extremely good at that, then it would be pretty easy to be financially free. As another example, if the goal you have is about your social life, maybe you want to have a great dating life, a better social life in general, again, you can ask yourself, what kind of skills does someone have to whom this comes easily? And maybe you have social skills, communication skills. You can learn how to be more charming, how to interact with people, how to hold a conversation, and so on and so forth. It always comes down to what skills do I need to acquire, because again, that's what you can actually control. And this applies across the board, from big picture skills like improving your communication skills to nitty-gritty skills like how good are you at Photoshop or how good are you at using Excel. These kinds of skills can make a key difference depending on what your job is or what your business is, or again, whatever your goal is. But it always comes down to skills. Skills pave the way to your goals. And by focusing on skills, the ball is in your court, and you're not just complaining about, oh, my life is no good, I'm unhappy with where I am, and you're kind of just looking outwards, feeling bad, complaining. That doesn't get you anywhere. But looking inwards and thinking, what skills can I develop to get to a better outcome? That is a key component. That brings us to the second letter in the Saga Framework, A for acceptance. Acceptance is one of the early gems that I discovered in my own personal development journey. Before I came across this idea of developing self-acceptance, I was really quite preoccupied with basically the opposite, with self-loathing. I felt terrible about myself. I thought of myself as a terrible failure. I basically just didn't like myself, and I certainly didn't accept myself the way I was and where I was in life. Luckily, I learned about the idea of self-acceptance, and I started cultivating self-acceptance mainly through writing. I started writing about all these things that I disliked about myself, started digging into why is it that I feel like this about myself. I started learning to forgive myself and accept myself, and also things like meditation practice, like mindfulness, just being in the moment, feeling the way you feel right now without resisting it. These are things that help me develop self-acceptance. Now, why is acceptance an important part of the framework? I think there are two answers to that question. The first has to do with what you talked about before. If you just have these ambitious goals, but you're constantly comparing yourself and thinking, I'm so much worse than I want to be, or I'm so much worse than these other people, that doesn't help you reach your goals. And if you can accept who you are right now and where you are right now, that puts you in a position where you can start taking the first step. Self-acceptance helps you arrive at here and now, at your starting point, and clears you to say, okay, this is fine. I'm here, this is who I am right now, and I can take the first step in a new direction. The second way in which self-acceptance helps is that it just eases tension and frees up your potential. Like I said before I discovered this, I was really quite preoccupied with self-loathing. A lot of my mental space was being taken up with like negative self-talk and all kinds of chatter and negative thoughts. And really, it's quite a weird inward turned worldview. I was spending so much time essentially thinking about myself. Something weirdly narcissistic about that. And when you're tense and obsessed with self-loathing like that, well, it just doesn't make you good at anything, does it? It basically gets in the way of anything you want to do in life. Self-acceptance helped unwind that tension, and it helped free up a lot of mind space, where this is probably the biggest difference I experienced, where before so many thoughts were just circling the drain about myself, and afterwards I had all this free space to think about other things, to come up with creative ideas for my business, to create content, and do all kinds of other things in my life. So in a way, self-acceptance helps you free up some bandwidth in your mind and in your life to do other things with. The third component of the Saga Framework is G for gratitude. I read a book called 59 Seconds, which was the first source that gave me a hint at the power of gratitude as a self-development tool. I read about these studies that showed that even relatively short amounts of time spent doing gratitude exercises raised people's happiness levels quite significantly and for quite a long-lasting time. And that alone is a great reason to incorporate gratitude practice into your life. Even if all you do is you spend like 2 minutes every evening, write down 2 to 3 things that happened today that you're grateful for. Even if that's all you do, that will have a measurable and significant impact on your level of happiness. And that's the original reason I started doing this, simply as a way to improve my own well-being and life quality. But then I came across the work of Shawn Achor, and he combines these insights from positive psychology with the field of work performance and career advancement. And he has actually found that happier people tend to be more successful. And the causal relationship here is the other way around than what most people would expect. So it's not that successful people are happier because they're successful, but rather it's that happier people are more likely to succeed. And this is why gratitude is part of the Saga Framework. If you want to turn your life around and improve your life, then gratitude is not only going to make you happier, it's also going to increase your chances of actually reaching your ambitious goals. That brings us back to the last part of this framework, which is ambition. And now you can see how these 3 components of skills, acceptance, and gratitude underpin our ambitious goal and help us actually make that a useful goal for us and help fuel our progress towards that. So if you focus on developing skills, that puts you in control. You develop self-acceptance to release tension and free up your bandwidth, and you practice gratitude to raise your happiness level, which could also raise your performance level. Then that puts you in a position where you can look at an ambitious goal and actually take steps towards it instead of just feeling overwhelmed by it. The Saga Framework is something I developed many years ago, and it was very useful for me. And now I want to revisit it and dive in again because there are several things in my life that I want to turn around. So here's how I'm going to make use of this framework. Let's start again from the beginning. Number 1, skills. Here, I really don't have a lot of work to do. If you know my work, you know that I'm absolutely obsessed with skills, and I already have a deeply ingrained skill focus. So really, I don't have to do anything more here. I've already made this part of my life. So moving on to number 2, acceptance. This video, my previous video about the Norway road trip, is actually part of acceptance. It is coming to terms with the fact that in some areas of my life, I've really suffered setbacks and I've kind of regressed, which is very unpleasant, and it's hard to admit basically, right? I'd rather be able to say that everything in my life keeps getting better, but that's just not the case. Part of what I'm doing here is just getting very clear about that, getting clear about the areas of my life where I have slid backwards in a way, or areas of my life where I'm just not satisfied with how things are going, and being honest with myself and with you about that. That is part of acceptance. Part number 3, gratitude. I have a long-standing gratitude habit. I've been doing this for many, many years, but it is something I want to double down on because I really have gotten into a routine of doing my gratitude writing, and sometimes I kind of fly through it without really feeling gratitude. I'll just write out a bunch of things. So what I want to do is I want to double down on this and spend more time really feeling grateful for things and not just writing down what I'm grateful for. And finally, ambition. I have realized that while I always had ambitious goals in my life, I have made some mistakes, and I have had to set some new goals and some new things for myself to aim for. For example, I have set 2 new goals for myself, one being that I want to reach a personal net worth of $100 million, and another being that I want to do a 100-day streak of exercising every day. Now, I've actually learned so much about the importance of ambition and how to be ambitious that I want to make a whole separate video about that. Instead of dragging this one out for too long, I'll make a whole separate video where I tell you all of the things that I've learned and discovered about ambition in the last few months. So now you know how the Saga Framework works, And if you want to have a bit of a more guided worksheet on this, you can head over to the blog post. So you're either already on that and you can just scroll down, or if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the link in the description. We'll send you over to the blog post where you can download a worksheet that walks you through some questions to develop this Saga framework for yourself. I want to make this as useful and as practical as possible for you. So if you have any questions about this and about how to use it, let me know by leaving a comment right here. Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next video where we take a deeper dive into ambition. So let me know what you think of this framework and let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you in the next video.